Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he wanted to bring a Bible with him or some shit.
Yeah, you heard that right. Foolio's killers are starting to unravel. Things have taken a serious turn. One of them even collapsed in court after receiving a severe sentence, and the rest didn't hold up much better. But the real question is, was it just the life sentence that broke them? Word on the street says there's more to it. Apparently, they're terrified, afraid that Foolio's people are waiting for them on the inside, ready to settle the score. I've got all the details. Let's break it down. What was meant to be a routine sentencing turned into total chaos inside a Florida courtroom on a humid June morning. The tension hit a boiling point when one of the convicted men dropped to the floor moments after hearing his fate, life without parole. The entire room went still. His body went limp as he hit the ground. His mother screamed. He was in tears. Another co-defendant stared blankly at the wall, seemingly just beginning to grasp that he would never walk free again. But perhaps the most shocking part was that the man accused of pulling the trigger tried to dismiss his attorney, insisting he'd represent himself in a death penalty case. That's right. Facing capital punishment, he thought he could defend himself in a courtroom built to lock him away forever. Before we show you that dramatic collapse, before witnessing a convicted killer mentally and physically break down, you need to understand what led to this point, and why this case has sent shockwaves through Florida's legal system. Julio Foolio, whose real name was Charles Jones, wasn't just another rapper. He was one of Jacksonville's most controversial and feared voices. But he was also a son and a young man trying to celebrate his birthday. On June 22nd, he was in Tampa, enjoying what was supposed to be a special night. But in the early hours of June 23rd, everything changed. He was ambushed and killed outside a hotel, targeted by three men who, according to investigators, had been tracking him through social media and GPS. At least 31 rounds were fired into his vehicle. It was a calculated hit. Surveillance footage later revealed the chilling moment: three gunmen creeping through the parking lot, rifles raised, ready to strike. They didn't hesitate. Foolio was sitting in the front passenger seat when they opened fire. He never even had a chance to escape.
School. 4 guys, 1 girl. The girl's pregnant currently, which makes it even crazier. One of the guys, when they were arresting him, I guess he had a gun to his head. Did you hear this whole story?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he wanted to bring a Bible with him or some shit.
These suspects weren't careless. They were calculated. They had been watching Foolio closely and knew exactly where he was headed. One of them was reportedly connected to his ex-girlfriend through a mutual friend. Another, a young woman named Alicia Andrews, who was pregnant at the time, allegedly trailed Foolio from one club to the next that night, sending live updates to the group like a spotter in a coordinated operation. Despite the precision of their movements, these weren't seasoned criminals. Most were barely out of their teens.
These are all signs that things are gonna go very bad for them. Like, you got a girl in it, she's pregnant, he's suicidal, wants a Bible. It's not going good.
Not going good for who?
For the
Ranging in age from just 18 to 30, this group is accused of carrying out one of the most high-profile rap-related murders in recent memory. The trial is currently underway, and for several of the defendants, the stakes couldn't be higher. Prosecutors have made it clear they're pursuing the death penalty, and they're not backing down.
Well, it's not like they're going to get off for this.
No, they got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, all right, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go? But it's not, you can't even come up with a defense for them.
This is where things take an even darker turn. Rashad Murphy, one of the primary defendants, made a move that stunned everyone. He fired his attorney and demanded to represent himself in a capital murder case, one that could ultimately lead to the death penalty. Despite repeated warnings from the judge and his legal team, Murphy pressed forward. He filed for a speedy trial and submitted handwritten letters to the court, claiming he was being treated like he was already convicted. He said he wasn't allowed to make phone calls, send letters, or even review his own case files. He begged for access to legal documents, insisting that he was being denied the basic tools to mount a defense. To some, it looked like a desperate legal tactic. But to others, it was the unraveling of a man crushed by the reality of what he was facing. And honestly, he had every reason to spiral. The evidence against him and his co-defendants is overwhelming.
They found bullets. They found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
Investigators gathered compelling evidence linking the suspects to the crime. Ring camera footage captured them loading rifles into duffel bags. GPS data from their phones tracked Foolio's movements throughout the night. Text messages between the suspects revealed discussions about the murder before it happened. And bullet casings recovered from the scene matched firearms later discovered in their homes.
We have evidence of the defendant's co-defendants very clearly meeting at Sean Gathwright's house on his video camera, where they are loading up big bags that are definitely big enough to hold these assault rifles that were used in this
case. As prosecutors laid out the mountain of evidence in court, one of the defendants, seated just feet away from Foolio's grieving mother, suddenly collapsed. While cameras weren't permitted to capture the moment, witnesses inside the courtroom described him falling from his chair, trembling and muttering, "I can't breathe." Whether it was fear, guilt, or the crushing realization that he'd spend the rest of his life behind bars, no one can say for certain. But one thing was clear, the pressure was closing in fast. Let's take a moment to reflect. This case isn't just about gang retaliation or a rap feud gone too far. It's a disturbing look at how violence has gone viral, how dissing the dead has become just another tactic to chase views, streams, and internet clout. It's a world where grieving mothers scroll through YouTube only to find songs mocking their murdered children. Foolio was no stranger to this cycle. He dissed his rivals, and eventually, others did the same to him. Now, that toxic culture has destroyed 6 lives. 1 man is dead. 5 others may never walk free again. One of them is expecting a child who may grow up knowing their mother only through prison glass. What's more, the evidence collected is even more damning than many expected, and one of the suspects may have accidentally implicated the entire group in his quest for social media attention. So, how did we get here? Prosecutors say Foolio's murder wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. It was a calculated hit that involved careful planning, surveillance, multiple vehicles, out-of-town travel, and high-powered firearms. And it all began well before they ever reached Tampa. Surveillance footage shows the suspects, Rashad Murphy, Davian Murphy, and Sean Gathwright, packing large bags capable of concealing rifles in a quiet residential neighborhood. That very bag was later confirmed to contain at least 2 assault-style weapons. The most shocking part? The footage came from their own surveillance camera.
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
One of the most disturbing aspects of Foolio's final hours is that they were essentially live-streamed by Foolio himself. As he shared moments from his birthday celebration on Instagram, investigators say 2 individuals, Alicia Andrews and Isaiah Chance, were monitoring his posts in real time. Acting as lookouts while pretending to be friends, they allegedly tracked his every move that night, from the club to the after-party, and ultimately to the hotel where he was ambushed and killed.
This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do.
The shooters didn't rush into the hotel parking lot. Instead, they parked across the street and waited, watching carefully. At exactly 4:38 a.m., 3 of them quietly exited their vehicle and moved toward the Home 2 suites. Armed with a handgun and 2 rifles, they unleashed a hail of bullets, firing 31 rounds into Foolio's SUV. 3 other passengers were also struck in the attack, but somehow they survived.
I don't think he had nothing to do with the murder though.
No, I mean, it's actually pretty ugly what happened, because one of the suspects, their brother, Spaz, was allegedly killed by one of Foolio's friends.
Yeah.
Foolio rapped about him, and I believe there's a video of him urinating on his grave.
There's multiple videos of Foolio dissing this guy.
Why? What could drive 5 young individuals, including a pregnant woman, to carry out an execution-style killing on a public street? According to prosecutors and law enforcement, the motive was rooted in classic street retaliation. One of the alleged gunmen reportedly had a brother, known as Spaz, who was killed by someone affiliated with Foolio's circle.
They were caught on license plate cameras. He used his mama's car. His mama said, I ain't had that car, then my son had it.
Foolio didn't just rap about the death of Spaz, he openly mocked it. In one video, he even included footage of someone urinating on Spaz's grave. That wasn't music, it was provocation. A declaration of war. So the 5 suspects made their way to Tampa, not with lyrics or diss tracks, but with firearms, burner phones, and a calculated plan. But here's the twist, they didn't even try to cover their tracks. In fact, they practically handed the evidence to investigators. Let's break it down. Alicia Andrews' phone was tracked from Jacksonville to Tampa, mirroring Foolio's every stop that night. License plate readers identified the vehicles used in the ambush. Hotel surveillance captured footage of the suspects just before and after the shooting. Forensic analysis confirmed that shell casings found at the crime scene matched rifles later recovered from Rashad Murphy's home. One suspect even kept bullet fragments and shell casings as souvenirs. And if that weren't enough, text messages between them revealed a chilling sense of satisfaction after the killing, including one that read, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched."
I think this guy's nuts. I think that's why. I mean, he wants to defend himself, which is insane in a death penalty case. And then he actually has said that he may use an insanity defense, which also is insane in itself when the facts show otherwise, that these guys had meticulous planning and attempts to cover up crime. And when you have that, good luck in getting an insanity defense, because to sustain an insanity defense, you have to have an established medical condition and you have to not know the difference between right and wrong. But when you meticulously plan and then try to cover up your tracks, that shows you knew the difference between right and wrong. It shows you knew what you did was illegal. And when you want to just try to put forward an insanity defense as your own lawyer, it doubles the level of difficulty.
That's how confident they were, especially Rashad Murphy. He seemed to believe he could outsmart the system. He left his own phone at home, but relied on everyone else's devices throughout the night. Then he made his boldest move yet. He asked to represent himself in court. Even his attorney warned the judge that it was a terrible idea, but Murphy insisted, arguing that jail conditions were preventing him from preparing a proper defense. Then he switched tactics again, this time claiming he would pursue an insanity defense. He announced this strategy back in November. But here's the legal problem. An insanity plea doesn't hold up when there's clear evidence of premeditation. You can't argue you were mentally unstable while also executing a carefully coordinated plan to commit murder. It's the exact opposite of what an insanity defense requires.
And then they just recently did it where the girl isn't waiving her right to a speedy trial and they believe she's gonna cooperate.
Right. Actually, one of my members, Kilcon RL, mentioned that. He said Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial, but the other 3 waived.
Right.
Waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's cooperating now.
Murphy's defense may already be dead on arrival. And if he continues insisting on representing himself, there's a real risk he could unintentionally implicate his co-defendants during open court proceedings. That possibility has people close to the other suspects on edge, especially Alicia Andrews. She's the only one who hasn't waived her right to a speedy trial, and legal analysts believe that could be a sign she's cooperating with prosecutors. It would make sense. She's young, she's pregnant, and she might be trying to secure a future where she can raise her child outside prison walls. If she decides to flip, the entire case could unravel quickly. But the story doesn't end there. What happened next was a full-blown jailhouse meltdown. Once prosecutors laid their evidence on the table, it became clear someone had talked. And early murmurs in the courtroom all pointed in one direction: Alicia Andrews. Just 21 years old and pregnant at the time of the murder, Andrews was charged with the same count of first-degree murder as the men accused of actually pulling the trigger. Yet, unlike them, she pushed for a speedy trial. Many legal experts saw that move not as a defense strategy, but as a message. A warning shot. Or perhaps a sign that she was ready to cooperate.
Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were here.
But it wasn't just the court filings that raised suspicions, it was what happened next. Shortly after her arrest, Andrews sat down for a full interview with police. She admitted to being present and confirmed the group's movements throughout Tampa that night. While she didn't name who pulled the trigger, she revealed enough to firmly place the entire crew exactly where prosecutors needed them. Her statements filled in the gaps, and for investigators, that was more than enough.
Motive.
I do find, generally speaking, that this is evidence that does help create motive and intent and explain the crimes charged.
Investigators then used GPS data from Andrews' phone to retrace the group's movements from club to club, from their rental property to the hotel. While she may not have pulled the trigger, Andrews acted as a modern-day scout, helping the shooters follow their target both digitally and on the ground, like something out of a tactical operation, but tragically senseless. And prosecutors aren't stopping with her. In a move that has shaken defense attorneys, the court has ruled that prior gang-related killings can be introduced as evidence, specifically to help establish motive.
This is something in Jacksonville that is very well known. These videos, both by our victim as well as by the rival gangs, are posted immediately. It's in the public domain, and it details this long-standing feud.
The court's reasoning was clear. Foolio's murder wasn't some isolated incident. It was the violent peak of a long-standing feud between some of Jacksonville's most dangerous rap factions, 6 Block, ATK, and 1200. These weren't just lyrical rivalries, they were bloody, tit-for-tat wars where every act of disrespect demanded retaliation. Andrew's boyfriend was allegedly tied to one of these rival crews. One of the accused gunmen had lost a brother in the conflict, a brother whose grave was later desecrated in one of Foolio's music videos. The judge ruled that all of this context could be admitted into the court record to help establish motive.
That's the same guy who, after the murder, allegedly sent out a text, "I'm coming home, my thirst is finally quenched." Like, it was a mission for him. So, I mean, if we're talking about motive, that's classic get back, right? Hey, his people did something to my brother. They kept laughing about it. They've desecrated his gravesite. This is a rapper who's been known to make videos at gravesite or laugh at the dead. Now we get to laugh at it.
It gets worse. Some of the suspects unknowingly handed prosecutors everything they needed. Take Rashad Murphy, for example. You've already heard about his erratic courtroom behavior, trying to fire his lawyer, claim insanity, and represent himself in a death penalty case. But what really shocked investigators was the evidence he left behind. Surveillance footage from his own home captured Murphy and his co-defendants loading large bags later confirmed to be big enough to carry the same type of rifles used in the murder. And while Murphy thought he was being careful by leaving his personal phone behind, he used other people's devices throughout the night. Those phones were subpoenaed and traced all across Tampa. It didn't stop there. One of the suspects paid for expenses using a Cash App card, which police tracked through its purchase history and IP address. And the car Murphy was driving, his mother's, was caught on surveillance. When questioned, she confirmed it. "Yes, my son had the car." That sealed it. But perhaps the most chilling piece of all? After the shooting, one of the killers allegedly sent a text that read, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched."
And let's not lose sight of the fact that there are innocent victims in every homicide case, the loved ones who are left behind. His fans knew him as Foolio, but to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that she gets justice.
It wasn't just a confession, it was a statement, a celebration, and a collapse. This entire tragedy goes beyond 5 reckless individuals. It reflects a deeper culture, one where funerals are used for promotion and death becomes content. Foolio himself contributed to it. He taunted fallen rivals, filmed music videos at their grave sites. But in doing so, he lit the same fuse that ultimately led to his own death, his name ending up on a toe tag. The people accused of killing him? Kids. One of them just 18, with alleged involvement in prior shootings dating back to when he was 17. How does someone go from live streaming on Twitch to carrying a rifle in just a few years? The truth is, law enforcement never stood a chance. The real tragedy here is how preventable it all was. Social media has become the new battleground, replacing street corners with captions and comment sections. Threats are posted, reposted, and rewarded with likes. And now, Florida law enforcement is bracing for what could come next. This war, fueled by music, clicks, and vengeance, might not be over. There are still people out there with guns, grudges, and now, martyrs. But the state is drawing a line. They want this to be the case that changes everything. From rap beef to life behind bars, what does it look like when a young man sees his entire future vanish? When Hillsborough County prosecutors brought the defendants into court one by one, it didn't feel like a routine legal proceeding. It felt like a reckoning. Sean Gathright, just 18 years old, showed no emotion at first as the judge sentenced him to life in prison. But as the evidence was laid out, surveillance videos, weapon forensics, GPS tracking, text messages, Cash App receipts, it began to sink in. Witnesses say he slumped forward, staring at the ground, whispering to himself over and over, "I ain't kill him. I ain't kill him." But in Florida, that doesn't matter. If you help plan a murder, even without pulling the trigger, you face the same punishment. And Sean wasn't just involved. He was caught on video preparing for the ambush. Then came Rashad Murphy, who turned the courtroom upside down. As proceedings began, Rashad shocked everyone. He fired his attorney. Despite repeated warnings from the judge, his legal team, and even the prosecution, Rashad insisted on defending himself in a capital murder case. It was like watching someone attempt brain surgery on themselves with a butter knife. He blamed jail conditions, claiming he was denied access to calls, mail, and case files. In a handwritten note to the judge, Rashad said he was being treated like a convicted man before the trial even began. But the court wasn't convinced. Under Florida law, anyone representing themselves in a death penalty case must be declared mentally competent. And Rashad's behavior wasn't helping his cause. He had previously hinted at pleading insanity, despite his role in what prosecutors described as one of the most carefully orchestrated murders they had ever investigated. That contradiction alone undermined any hope of leniency. And then came the collapse. As Rashad stood alone, trying to question witnesses and defend himself, he froze. His legs gave out. He hit the courtroom floor. A deputy rushed to his side while another called for medical assistance. His mother screamed from the gallery. The judge quickly called for a recess. There were no cameras, but witnesses confirmed the moment. One of Foolio's accused killers broke down completely, shaking, crying, consumed by the weight of a life sentence. Meanwhile, in the front row, Foolio's mother sat in silence. She had watched her son become a target, mocked online, and blamed in some corners for the violence that claimed his life. But as she later told reporters, he was still my son. He didn't deserve to die on his birthday. She had seen the footage. She had scrolled through the mockery. And now, the only thing she had left to hold on to was justice.
The moment Young and Ace was sitting with me for the interview, the cops were raiding the guys. The exact moment. Everybody who got locked up for the murder, the 3 simultaneous arrests, happened exactly when he's talking to me. And I think, I don't know what his perspective is now, but his perspective is then, and maybe he just doesn't know it. He was like, ain't nothing gonna come of this.
But even justice feels hollow sometimes, because what no one tweets about, what never trends on TikTok, is what happens after the violence ends. After the gunshots fade and the sentencing is over, silence takes over. That's when mothers go home to empty rooms, haunted by courtroom footage and surveillance clips they can't unsee. That's when children grow up visiting their parents through cold glass, all because someone they trusted chased fame through bloodshed. This case reflects a perfect tragedy for our era. Clout killed Foolio. Blind loyalty destroyed the suspects. And social media turned it all into a spectacle, just more content for endless scrolling. And yet, there's one final twist. Investigators now suspect that Foolio's most public rival, Young and Ace, may have known about the hit in real time. In a surreal moment, DJ Academics revealed that police were conducting simultaneous arrest raids at the very same time he was interviewing Young Gene Ace. The timing wasn't just eerie, it raised even more questions. What started as music ended in murder. What began as rap beef is now a courtroom reckoning. And what the internet turned into entertainment has left families permanently broken.
Unfortunately, I think young people think this is a game. And there'll be comments about this in the statement that I make, and they make it like it's a video game. It's not. This is real life. So he has a mother, he has parents, siblings, probably friends, and they have to deal with these kind of losses, and it's unfortunate. Now the next thing is these groups, and I won't name them, they know who they are. We're not going to tolerate any retribution, any revenge. We're going to watch. We're going to be around paying attention to what's going on, but it's unfortunate. It should never happen to our kids. And I've never seen so much devaluing of human life. It's like it's fun, and they talk about it in rap videos and songs, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Whether Ace had any direct knowledge remains uncertain, but the symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. And neither was what he was drinking. A bottle of Don Julio sat beside him, casually placed, his drink of choice. Intentional or not, the parallel was chilling. Don Julio. Foolio. A toast, live on the internet, as one rival lay in the ground. Now, we wait. The trials are still unfolding. Alicia Andrews is expected to be the first to face a jury this year. Rashad Murphy's solo courtroom performance could either end in disaster or a last-minute plea deal. And the gang war that sparked all of this? It's far from over. Law enforcement is already on high alert. As one Florida sheriff put it bluntly, we're not just preparing for court, we're preparing for what happens after. This case was never just about rap. It was about power, revenge, ego, and the toxic race to get the last word online. The courtroom may have delivered its verdict, but in a world where music videos double as confessionals and funerals are broadcast live, you have to wonder, who's really paying attention? If this story gripped you, there's more where that came from. Tap one of the videos on your screen now for more in-depth coverage on cases just like this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay locked in.